those of you that, I don't think there's too many of you that don't know Dan Barron, and he has put together a program for us that's going back, how many million years? 250. Okay, so we're going to do step by step to the 21st century. So I'd like you to welcome Dan Barron.
Thank you very much. Crossroads of Cultures. I am Dr. Dan Barron, known here as Daniel or Dr. Daniel or some other names, but basically I want to recuse myself from anyone thinking that I'm a historian, an archaeologist, paleontologist. I am a dabbler in culture. And so I'm also a librarian. And the neat thing about being a librarian is your knowledge base is about a mile wide, but it's about an inch thick. Which is good at cocktail parties because you can talk to a lot of people about a lot of different things, but you can't talk to many people in depth. So tonight, I want you to know that I've had fun pulling this together.
No, sir.
I've had fun pulling this together, and I hope you have fun as we go through the evening. Okay? And the one thing that I think is so important is that we encourage people to become engaged in the history of our area, especially young people. In my background is in history. The Revolutionary War happened up in New England. The Civil War happened over in Gettysburg and over in Mississippi. And now I want everyone to think about all the historical context of Mitchell County. What is your mic still on? I'm on. Well, I mean, it's turned on, so it's not. Let me, I can talk. Well, just to leave it on there, I'll just get you to do that. Because we're recording, right? All right. If you miss anything I say, it will be on YouTube. All you gotta do is go to the website and watch it. I'm sure after the night there'll be lots of you who are going to go out there and say, oh gosh, I can't wait to watch the videos of this. Well, maybe. We'll see. This, for those, I usually like to have a handout and a presentation, but I also don't like to kill trees. There's something about a 70, 25% of the people who usually come to something will use the handout. So what I'm going to do is, if you will please, be sure to remember my email address. I will send you an illustrated bibliography and also answer any questions that you have, interact with you any way you want to about anything I've said tonight, because some of the stuff I'll say tonight, that I'm going to say tonight, you may disagree with, and especially those of you who really know something about history. All right, so I want to thank my friend Arch Woodard, because this whole presentation started as he and I were pouring beer at the Bluegrass and Barbecue Festival in Spruce Pine. Seriously, he started talking about this, and so he and I were going back and forth and talk, especially the part about Minnesota. But I also want to thank my wife and Bob Hensley. That's a strange combination for some people, but they're the ones who, as you'll see tonight, a little bit later on, thank them, and my colleagues here at the Historical Society. And I do hope that you will consider becoming a member of the Historical Society. Okay, let's get serious. Mitchell County Early Crossroads of Culture. I want to define what I mean by Mitchell County first, please. Let's start back 225 million years ago, when Mitchell County was on the map here, as you can see, went through various stages around the time periods, and now we end up with. Funny thing with the first map that was first time that America was shown on a map,
it doesn't show Mitchell County. Neither the 1606 map show Mitchell County or the 1700 map. And then you get the map of the North Carolina when we started doing counties, and it wasn't until, what was that date? 1860 what? 1861. And then 1861 we became Mitchell County. My fourth great grandfather helped make Mitchell County, and I've been doing my best to bring the three counties together since. But that's a tough road to hoe. But tonight, Mitchell County to me is that unit before Adrian County was formed. First, I want to talk a little bit about, let's take you back just 3.6 million years now, to when we left Africa, or when we were in Africa, we left Africa, human beings did. And then we went across through here, we came up to over here, and then we ended up coming into Burinia, 12,000 BC. And as you can see here, we've got all sorts of people who came through here, and these were the people who were the hunter-gatherers. And then as they progressed, as more and more people began to populate the area, they had little tribes that got together, little groups of people that got together. And so it happens that the Cane Creek site here in Mitchell County goes back 10,000 years. So that's pretty good. Did you know that? Good. This is good. I was hoping for somebody to, oh, yeah, I know that. I'm glad. What? Glad you asked that, because you're going to find out. That's where we're going right now. The idea being, and these are renderings from archaeologists and anthropologists and artists, of course, but it's based on fact, is that this is about what many places looked like as far as the savages were concerned when Europeans came here. I'd like to hear you that. Any Clemson graduates? Okay. They are remote from us only in time. So try to think about that. I borrowed this from a Free History of Scotland, but it makes sense here in the United States and America too. Interestingly enough, about 100 BC to 500 AD, around in that period, there was a lot of trading going on. There were lots of people in, and let's go back to that. And this is one of the sites that archaeologists have found all of these artifacts. And they come, of course, the states weren't there. We figured that out. But all those places, this is where silver came from. This is where shark teeth came from. All around, and there was all these people in here, and they traded stuff, including Sinkhole Mine. Researchers have proven pretty well that there, not just in that one place in Ohio, but in other places as far away as Michigan, that mica was traded by the Indians. And if you take a look at this, 1050 to 1100 AD, here is just one. We think about the Inca and Aztecs. Well, here we had this one big town, 15,000 to 20,000 people. That was around Illinois. I find that very interesting. Here are these, this is a representation of some of the Indian people who have been around and were around. As you can see, there's quite a lot of them. Just in the southeast, there's quite a lot of them. If you take a look at that, according to archaeologists, 1500 AD, before the Europeans came, there were 20 to 90 million people living in North America. 70 people in Europe. There were 1,000 different languages. I just want to give you that background because I find that so fascinating. I took an archaeology course up at Abbott. And this is part of my presentation, and that's when I discovered. one of the most significant archaeological sites in western North Carolina, the Cane Creek site. Now, the Cane Creek site was not a town, it was not a village, it was more of a hunting camp. It was used over a long period of time, as we'll talk about in just a minute. Discovered in '63 by Ed Wilson, who was plowing his field. He came across a bunch of stuff and he decided, whoa, this is pretty good. So he took the plow back through the field again. Same place. And, oh, wow, this is pretty good. And he kept, and he, you know, not really knowing what he should be doing, he got a whole bunch of this stuff up already. But he also let the people at Chapel Hill know that what was going on. They sent up 2 of their very best archaeologists and they did a systematic dig here. The idea being is that this, again, is a camp. It wasn't a village. Do you know where this is? Give me a hand as to where that is. What's that building? Rock Mountain. Rock Mountain Missionary Baptist Church. Okay? That's the field right outside there, and it was right in there. Okay? It was the first site with evidence of the late Middle Woodland period, which means it was 1000 to 850 AD. According to the ceramics that they found, the shards that they found, brings it back to 750 to 1650 AD. The points, the projectile points, are the ones that make it very interesting because they're the ones the most lasting. The Palmer point. So there was continued visits. That's one of the most interesting and necessarily important things, is there was continued visits to this one site over thousands of years. This is a chart of the projectile points that are usually found in North Carolina. This is a list of the ones that were found at the Cane Creek site. And as you can see, a lot of those go back 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 years.
Okay. What about the Cane River Village in Mississippi?
Just hold on to that idea. You've been watching my, stepping into my computer. Bernie Keel suggests that they conclude that it's been visited 10,000 years ago, intermittently, at Cane Creek. The Lamoka Point, this is one of the most important things as far as Dr. Tom White up at App State is concerned, because he said it shows, again, that this is the furthest south that they know that Lamoka points have ever been found. Lamoka is here up in New York. And that shows that this technology was shared. Either people learned it from people from up there, or they actually brought it down, or both, over thousands of years, hundreds of years. And he said that's the most important. And I want to talk about this just a second. This is a Google map. You go into Google, you put 2 points on there, you put it walk, and then it will take you, it will show you if you were really walking, that would be the way to go. Keep this in mind, okay? Because we're going to do this several times. Interesting thing is that the Cane Creek site, as you know, Cane Creek connects to the Toe River. Toe River connects, and it goes, there is indication that there was exchanges all the way over to Chiaga, which is over in Tennessee. That's important for men too. Possible interactions with other local sites. For example, the Cane River site. There was a large town over in Cane River, where the Cane River School is. So there's possible sites. People either going there to stay part of the year, or just an exchange. Same thing with the McDowell site. There was a major Indian village down where the Lowe's and Big Lots. And as far as Cane Creek and the Berry site over near Morganton, we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. But one of the things, let's look at this. If you're walking from down around Morganton up through here and up through Linville and around, you're not going down 19E, which is there, you're going where? Somebody tell me you know what it is. How are you going to get from there to here over the mountain? Come on, you know. Somebody knows. What? No, walking. The location. What's the name of the area? Where would you be walking? Cross Henson's Creek. Exactly. You're going to cross Henson's Creek. This is going to be very important as we talk tonight. So the idea is Henson's Creek coming through here over to the Cane Creek site. It could have been that possible. Also, just a moment of reflection on, there were 3 bodies, 3 skeletons found. A woman, a baby, and an adolescent. They found deeds very near the child, the baby. So apparently it was buried with some spiritual feelings. And then what's very interesting is that they sent back the 1996, they came back up from Chapel Hill, they dug it again, and they got a few more points, a few more sherds, but they also got what I think is the coolest thing, and that is Bernie Keel's trowel. He left it there, so it's part of the artifact. All right, another thing, as long as we're up here around the Baptist church, there was an article in the newspaper that said Holland English was taken out of the jail in Barracudsville. About 2 miles later, he was hanged near a church. No Mountain Baptist Church is almost exactly 2 miles away from downtown Bakersfield. And the story goes is that the people came from over the mountain in Ada County there, which was Mitchell County at the time, and hanged him. So there's a lot. Let's take a look at this. DeSoto, Europeans, when they came here, you know, Columbus discovered America, right? Well, according to a lot of people, there are a lot of other people who discovered America. The only problem, well, see, you got Mormons, you got Catholics, you got the Scots, you got the Welsh, and the only ones that can really show evidence are the Vikings. And this woman, Sarah Parkak from University of Alabama at Birmingham, educated at Cambridge and Yale. She's doing some wonderful things with satellite technology, and she's shown beyond a shadow of a doubt that the Vikings were here in settlement, not just exploring. I'm going to go on about that. But here's where we want to go. I want to go. DeSoto. Hernando DeSoto. He brought 600 men, a bunch of mean dogs, a bunch of pigs, using them for food, of course. Some of them got away, and now they're Razorbacks. But he came through here, up around in here, and that's a little bit of the journey we want to talk about Mitchell County. He also brought with him Rodrigo Rangel, who was a scribe. In 1964, his work was translated for the first time. 1964. America was not named Columbus because American Vespucci wrote about his travels. Columbus never wrote anything about his travels. And when the 2 cartographers decided that they're going to put something out, they named America, America. And so that's the big deal, is that he brought a scribe, and now we know so much more about what DeSoto did, and so we could be called Columbia if he'd had his own scribe. But the interesting thing about DeSoto, he got his education from Francisco Pizarro down in South America with the Indians, with the Inca Indians. They went in there and they did some mighty damage. He learned things about, if you can imagine, you're traveling with 600 people,
where you're going to get the food, you take it away from the people who have it where you're traveling. If they don't like it, then what you do, you cut off their arms, cut off their noses. They'll go along after a while. And then take a few slaves with you because they've got to carry some of that heavy stuff. But most important is the glitter. It's to get the fun. And he became rich. Pizarro was rich, but DeSoto became rich and he wanted to become richer. So he was out exploring, not just for fun, but for gold. The DeSoto scholar DeSoto and Southeastern Indian scholar Charles Hudson from the University of Georgia. He and other historians read this translation, and they believe that DeSoto came this way. And Swala was around Hendersonville. Wasula was over here around Asheville. And Chiaha was around Fontana Lake. Now, there were Indian villages in those areas, and by the way, if you want to read a really, really great story about a Jacobite young man coming to Charleston, South Carolina, and then having a fictionalized but historically accurate story about him, do these. That's in the bibliography. Okay? So 1994, great. Robin Beck, David Moore, and Chris Roddy, all Chapel Hill grads. And now Robin is at Michigan, David Moore is Warren Wilson, and Chris is at Tulane. Just the nicest people ever. And you get in touch with them and they get back in touch with you just like you're somebody. Really neat thing about this is that at the time, this is 1994, a new translation of DeSoto's scribes' work. And so these guys said, hey, this is cool. We're going to do something with this. And so they did and worked with Charles Hudson and discovered that they believed by reading and looking at maps that DeSoto came around this way a little further up out of South Carolina. And there was a place called Jora. You may have heard of Jora in the news. David Moore explored Jora. Okay? Jora. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then the old maps that were left about DeSoto's time, that's Swala. And so it ends up that Swala and Joora and the Berry site are all the same. That's the neat part. Down around, and let's see here. Fort St. Juan is also there, the first European site in America, in what's now America. First European settlement. And by the way, these are, oops. I was supposed to hold on to that for a second. Jora, Fort St. Juan, and the Berry site are at war in North Carolina. Why is that important? You're going to find out in just a minute, I think. 1997, Dr. Robin Beck, wrote this from Jora to Chiaha, Spanish exploration of the Appalachian Summit area. That's this area right here. This is what that article is about. And that's how it relates to Mitchell County. And of course you know, 600 men, all these horses and dogs and pigs, hacking their way through brush, sweating and hacking. You reckon? Only under unusual circumstances did either expedition with Juan Pardo or DeSoto get away from well-marked trails. This is from a 1925 map of the Indian trails that were known at the time. And the neat thing about it is that they were walked by many of the people who did the research for this book. And as you think about this, trails, where did roads come from? Well, it starts off with a deer trail.
And it gets a little bigger, and of course for the deer, if you ever look for a deer go on a regular basis, that is the easiest way to walk. So the Indians, when they came after they came into the country, they said, well, it works for me. And then they got, as you can see, it turns into, including Spruce Pine Road being built in Mitchell County. Anyway, the idea being is that this is the projected route, and if you can see, there are probably, and we're going to look at that in a minute, probably roads that work for them. And keep in mind, this one little trail over here around Wilmington. So, here's DeSoto heading north, and Calamico is a place that is roughly in the same, is roughly Camden, South Carolina. University of South Carolina archaeologists are uncovering the Mulberry site. What's interesting about this is that here comes DeSoto and all of his guys, and they get to, and they are met by a woman, the matriarchal society, a woman leader, the Lady of Copipachuqui. Now you think about this, 600 people, they put them up in their village for 2 or 3 days. They fed them for 2 or 3 days. When they left, they took a bunch of their food. And look at the date, May 1540, May. Can you imagine how there wasn't anything growing, so it had to come from stores. So anyway, they took off. The other thing that's neat about this is that she showed them some shiny rocks. And so I can imagine in my mind, say, well, look at these rocks. Well, we traded with them for those people out there in Chihuahua. You know, they get those rocks from somewhere, I don't know where. So the idea being, so DeSoto said, I like this idea. So, oh, by the way, the lady, Copipachuqui, is well known in lots of circles. A friend of mine, 2 friends of mine actually wrote part of this in South Carolina and published at the University of Georgia. Anyway, and beer, and this is a local Winston-Salem brewery, but you can't get the beer there because it's only available in Denmark. Okay, so what did he do to repay her kindness? He took her prisoner. He took her prisoner, and one of her slaves, and so they headed up north. And based on my analysis, or sort of looking at it, looking at other Indian trails, it makes sense that this is about the way they went. Up this way from what is now the Congaree, the Camden area, up through here, on the Occoneechee, to the Rutherford Trace, to Catawba Northern, and up to Charlotte. On May 21st, DeSoto arrives in Jora, Swalla, or Worry. This is one of the few pictures that have made it through the ages. And the photographer, he had a scribe and a photographer, but we can't find any of the others. Anyway, he left on May 21st. He headed on back up into the woods because apparently, and I'm making this up, is that they would say, and it's not in Robin's book, but I talked to his article, but I talked to him, I said, is it possible? And he said, well, anything's possible, man. Make it up if you want to, but don't tell them I said it, okay? The idea being, though, is that they, on Jonas Ridge, they camped there, came across Linville Falls to Ingalls. And at Ingalls, the lady slips away with her slave to relieve herself, and she was not seen anymore. They hit back into the woods. From Ingalls, think about this, from Ingalls, they go along, according to Robin, is that they went along 226, come down 19E, through Spruce Pine, up through here. And if you think about that, Those roads are probably the Indian trails that were being followed at that time. There's no reason to argue with that, I don't think. The neat thing about it is, how many of you have heard the story that they found Spanish artifacts at the Sinkhole Mine? When I was a kid, that was a big deal, because if they had, the Spanish were out there mining that stuff. So they had to go right by the Sinkhole Mine. And that might have been one of the reasons that they came this way. So you think about that. And to Webb. You know where Webb is? Been down around Poplar, the other side of Poplar. The next day they walked along the Nolichucky, which they crossed many times. And according to the Google, you can walk this, and it makes sense. If you've driven 197 down there and gone over to Erwin, Tennessee, you know the road winds and switches around. So it could be a very good example of an Indian trail turned into a road. But what about this? They walked along which crossed many times. That doesn't cross the river at all. Has anybody ever been to Lost Cove? Have any of you been to Lost Cove by going down to Poplar and going up that way and walking the railroad tracks? Very hell it is. We've done that. Poplar, you've not done that. So when we were in high school, we did that. My dad and I used to hunt and fish. Hunt, not fish. So the idea being, it seems to me that there's a possibility of walking along here, and if you go down the Warney Railroad tracks at the time, there was a good idea. And Guasula is Erwin. And from Erwin over to Chiana. And when the Europeans, about 1700, had been here 500 years, we now have 2 to 19 million people living in America. They went away. They did not leave knowingly. Anyway, I found this another interesting quote. It said, so anyway, let's go to this guy. I am assuming that this is a Scots-Irish or a Scots person. Scotsman. When the 100 years lease down here in Ulster ended, the Scots, of course, the southern Scots that had gone over there to make their living couldn't afford the rent, so they decided, let's get the heck out of Dodge, and so they went over this way. So after the unpleasant experience at Culloden, there were a lot of Highland Scots that decided to do the same thing. So, however, whatever level, whichever side of Scotland, whichever level there, they came in. A lot came in through Pennsylvania, we're told, Philadelphia. And then they came down the Big Wagon Road. And then some of them veered off into the Wilderness Road. And it makes sense. And if you take a look at this, this is the settlement areas that the Scots and Scots-Irish were. And I just found this just the other day. I think this is really cool. This is a DNA saliva test. And you can do this through Ancestry.com. And of course, lots of people related in here. And so it just makes sense that they would come down through here. And in 1763, King Charles III said, what we're going to do is we're going to build a wall. Well, no one complained about that at the time, but the wall he built was just a map like this. And that is, this is the official map of October 7th, 1763, and that is the line. And he says, and he was trying to appease the native people, of course,
Again, what did the people on the other side of the line say? Well, see, anybody Gaelic? Speak Gaelic? I think that has to do with something that he can do to certain parts of his anatomy that so anyway. So anyway, 1775, 1780, a little bit of a problem there. We were fighting the war. September the 7th, person says this, you know, they did not desist from their opposition. And of course, the folks over there on the other side, they said this, and best I understand that it's something that they're going to do to certain parts of his anatomy. So, if you translate that. September 25th, they left Sycamore Shoals. They came up September the 26th. They spent the night here. And the neat thing to keep in mind is that you can drive this, but they walk this coming over the mountain. And again, Yellow Mountain Trail, keep that, the Roaring Creek area, keep that in mind. Okay? Then they stopped at Kathy's Plantation in Spruce Pine.
When you say that, you were referring to?
The over the mountain there. There. How many were there?
About 900 of them comes across the mountain.
About 900 of the over the mountain men coming over the mountain. Yeah. And so this is, again, the crossroads, Native American people, Mitchell County, DeSoto and his people, Mitchell County, and the real people over there. And of course they went to Kings Mountain, and Sweet Lips did her job. And do you know the story of Sweet Lips? Well, if you don't know it, you need to go out to the orchard. Okay? 1777 at Saratoga, that was a turning point for the war. And 1780 was a turning point of the war, and some people suggest that if it hadn't been for this group of people who walked through Mitchell County, that we wouldn't be who we are today. Now, those are three real people and groups of people. Oh, I see you know this person. Who is this person? Jamie Fraser. Now, is he a real person? Well, that's cool. How many of you read the books? All the books? All the books. Okay. How many of you watching the film? Okay. Those who are watching the film, it won't mean as much as those who are reading the books. But I did the unpardonable sin. And I'll tell you what it is in just a minute. But anyway, if I am to live as a man, I must have a mountain. And that comes, of course, from Drums of Autumn, which is the fourth of these huge books. And my wife and Bob Hensley is the one who actually turned me on to this whole notion of what I'm going to try to show you tonight. But the idea being is that my wife is an absolute fanatic. She can quote verse in scripture from these books. And she gives the seal of approval. She's got the Brett seal of approval on the video so far. So if you're just watching the video, you're missing a lot. I read this book in preparation for this, and I'm yet to be forgiven for doing this. You've got to read the first two. You've got to. You don't know the backstory. I don't know the backstory. I want to know this part about North Carolina. Okay?
What is the video?
Oh, it's the Outlander. The Outlander video. It's the newest third book is
Season
coming
1
out?
and Season
What?
2. Season 1 and Season 2 cover the first two books.
First two books. So you got a while. So this may be a spoiler for you. Okay. Jamie and Claire come in they landed on the coast of Georgia, they come into Charleston. He has a relative that lives up in North Carolina, and he says that's where we're going. So they first have to go to Wilmington, and the neat thing about it is up at Deep River is where his family is, and so they have to go to Wilmington first. The neat thing is that there is a road there that was an Indian trail at one time called the King's Highway, and you can still drive on it. I believe it's 17, right? And of course, once you get to Wilmington, there was an Indian trail there. Well, once you get to Wilmington, you need to go to Cross Creek. And in the book, that's where it's labeled Cross Creek, but Cross Creek was renamed Fayetteville. And so you can drive it, or you can walk it, or if you can afford this, you can get one of these nice little boats and go up the river like they did. And I'm sure this is exactly the boat that they did. Not this boat, but one like it. Because it has the little cabinets on it, it has the sails and the big paddle. And so if you read the book, you'll know that that's what it is. And this is what she has, which I really think that her writing is marvelous. She is a marvelous writer. And she's done her homework, for sure. But that's the only one I want to read. So anyway, again, this is real life stuff because this is an indication of where the Scott people came in. And of course, you know, down there around Laurinburg, there's a huge Scots-Irish population down there. There is Scotland County is down there, in Laurinburg, that area. Now there is a fan group on the internet, and they say that came in here, came up here, across creek, and of course around here is Lenore, and they say this is where Fraser's Ridge is. There's another fan, well this is not the fan group, but this is the Outlander Wiki, where everyone can contribute whatever they want to, sort of like a wiki, okay? And up here at Fraser's Ridge, we're getting closer. My reading of it is from Fayetteville. They go up this way around. They hit Worry, because that's the logical place for where the Indian trails go, up to Yellow Mountain Gap. I'm basing that on the idea of, again, the Indian maps, Indian trail maps that are there.
Close.
Huh?
Close.
Close. Now wait a minute, when you just get, so when you get up there, around, because in the book, they talk about doing hunting over Rome, High Knob, going to the games at Grandfather Mountain. I don't know whether they had games in or not. And then also to remember back there with the Lamoke Indians, well, there's also, they have to go up to New York themselves to rescue one of the people that had been captured, but they had been traded to the Indians. And this looks a lot better to me. This looks a lot better than Lenore, as far as we're a beautiful place to live. That's Mitchell County and the crossroads of cultures, as far as I'm concerned. 3 real ones for sure, and a good made up one. Any questions? About anything?
They talk about seeing Linville Falls.
What?
They talk about seeing Linville Falls very close to their home. In
Forward? Oh, yeah. Was that Ames Falls? They don't say that. Anyway, never mind. Any one of these, we could spend the rest of the evening discussing as far as the nuances of it.
But this is like I said, as a librarian, my knowledge base is wide, but it's real thin. So I appreciate you very much coming tonight. I really enjoyed getting ready for this. Thank you.